When you first wake up in the morning, what's one of the first things that you notice? If you're living with chronic fatigue, there's a good chance that before you've even got out of bed, you've already started checking. How tired am I? Does anything hurt? How did I sleep? How much energy have I got? What have I got to do today? Am I going to be able to manage it? Sometimes that check happens so automatically that you may barely even realise you're doing it. And sometimes you do realise you're doing it, and then another thought appears, I know I shouldn't keep worrying about this. Or maybe I know that constantly thinking about my fatigue probably isn't helping. So now you're not only worrying about your energy, you're worrying about the fact that you're worrying about your energy. But what if we looked at that checking slightly differently? What if, instead of asking, why do I keep doing this, we asked, what has my attention been trying to do for me? Because I think there's a very understandable reason why your attention may have become so finely tuned to your body and to your energy. There is an extraordinary amount of information coming into your brain all the time. Things you're seeing, you're hearing, your physical sensations, the temperature of the room, what somebody's face is doing while you're talking to them, what their tone of voice is telling you, what's happening all around you. Your brain simply can't bring all of that information into your conscious awareness at once, so it filters. One of the systems involved in that filtering process is called the reticular activating system, or RAS. One way that I like to think about it is that your brain has become particularly good at spotting things, and it has learned what's important. Here's a really ordinary example. Imagine that you're thinking about buying a different car. You notice a particular model that you like, perhaps in a particular colour, and then suddenly you see them everywhere. You see one on the way to the supermarket, there's another one parked down the road, someone drives past you in one. It's probably not that hundreds of these cars have suddenly appeared overnight. Your attention has simply been given a new piece of information. This matters. Look out for it. And your brain is really good at doing exactly that. So let's bring this back to chronic fatigue. Imagine you've had the experience of feeling reasonably okay, doing something that seemed manageable, and then discovering afterwards that perhaps it wasn't okay, it was a bit too much. Perhaps your energy dropped suddenly, or maybe your symptoms increased. Perhaps you had to cancel or rearrange something that you'd been looking forward to. Maybe what you did on Tuesday seemed to affect what you were capable of doing on Wednesday or Thursday. Now, if those sorts of things happen enough, wouldn't it make sense for part of you to start paying closer attention to what's been going on? Your brain has learnt something really important. Your brain has learnt that your energy matters, that changes in your body matter, and that you need to know whether or not you're going to be okay. So your attention becomes very good at noticing a change in your energy, maybe a new sensation or a little more pain, or how well you've slept, how busy the day ahead looks, whether something feels risky, whether you might be risking doing too much, whether you'll have enough energy left for later. All of that's not your brain failing you. It's actually your brain doing something incredibly understandable it's trying to stop you from being caught out again. I think this is particularly important because I often hear women being quite critical of themselves for this. They know that they're monitoring their bodies, they know that they're worrying, and they know that they're planning ahead. And somewhere along the way, they've kind of picked up the idea that they shouldn't be doing it. But imagine for a moment if your energy was completely predictable, that you knew exactly how you'd feel when you woke up. You knew exactly what you could manage. You knew that if you did something today, there wouldn't be an unexpected consequence tomorrow. If you had that situation, would you need to check quite so much on your energy? Probably not. The checking has developed into a response to something. If your body has felt unpredictable, of course a part of you wants to know what sort of day you're facing. If activity has something that carries a cost to it, of course your mind tries to calculate that cost beforehand. If you've been caught out before, of course your attention has learned to watch more carefully. That doesn't necessarily mean that you want to spend the rest of your life monitoring every sensation. But understanding why we're doing something gives us a very different place from which to begin. So here's something I'd like to invite you to become curious about. Not to change it, but simply to notice. What does your attention notice first? Perhaps it's the morning body check. Maybe it's your pain. Perhaps it's your energy levels. Maybe it's the thoughts that are whirring round in your head. Or perhaps your attention goes immediately to the day ahead. What have I got to do? How am I going to fit it all in? Do I need to rest before I do this? Should I cancel this so that I can manage that? Again, don't correct yourself. We're not trying to stop the checking. Instead, perhaps add another question. What might all of this checking be trying to help me to manage? That question takes us somewhere quite different because we're moving away from like beating ourselves up, why am I like this? And towards a different kind of mindset where we go, oh, I wonder what this is trying to do for me. One of the changes I often notice when I'm working with women with chronic fatigue is that their concerns about their bodies don't simply disappear. And actually, that's not what I'm looking for. What often changes is their relationship with those concerns. Initially, there can be a lot of worry. Why is my body doing this? What if it gets worse? What if I can't manage? What am I doing wrong? But gradually over time, something else begins to creep in. I wonder why my body responded like that. I wonder what else was going on that day. I wonder what this might be telling me. I wonder whether there's another way I could approach this. Your body hasn't necessarily changed in that moment. The uncertainty hasn't magically disappeared, but we've moved from worrying to wondering. And that curiosity creates a little more space. So if you notice yourself checking your energy today, I'd like you to resist adding another layer of criticism on top of that. You don't need to tell yourself, stop thinking about it. You don't need to force yourself to ignore your symptoms as though they're not there. And you certainly don't need to pretend that everything is fine if perhaps it's not feeling that way. Perhaps simply recognise My attention has learnt to do this for a reason. It's been trying to help me predict, to help me to prepare and to manage and to protect myself from being caught out. And perhaps once we understand that, don't have to fight quite so hard with the part of us that's doing the checking. We can become curious about it instead. So the next time you notice yourself doing that familiar scan, how tired am I? What hurts? How much can I manage? Perhaps pause for just a moment and ask, what is my attention trying to help me with right now? You don't need to do anything with the answer. Noticing it is enough. Because once we stop fighting our attention, we can begin exploring another possibility. Can we widen what it gets to notice? And that's the conversation I'll pick up next time.